Hello, I am David Schollhammer. I helped playtest and design the solitaire components of Congress of Vienna.
The purpose of this video is to demonstrate solitaire play of Congress of Vienna described in Chapter 19 of the playbook. This video is not intended to be a full teach, playthrough, or strategy discussion. I will assume you have a basic understanding of the rules, which is provided by the Quick Start Rules Summary included with the game.
See Playbook Chapter 16 for a detailed example of play. If you do not want to learn the solo mechanics and just want a first play of the game, consider trying the introductory scenario for 1 to 3 players in Section 18.4 of the playbook. In this video, I will show you how to set up the card display during the initial phase. During the diplomacy phase, I will show you how to deal the cards, select cards, save possibly usable military cards, transfer the military pile, and what happens when you deplete the draw deck. During the war phase, I will show you a battle with the fog of war. I will demonstrate by playing part of turn 1 using the non-competitive solo option, where I, the human, make all decisions for the French and Allies instead of the bots, in order to focus on the solo mechanics. Hopefully this video will help you get started playing the solo game. Character and event cards are arranged on these solo displays available from the CDG Solo System or Congress of Vienna pages at gmtgames.com. While these displays help arrange the cards, they are not required. For all solo games, the three Allied powers, Russia, Britain, and Austria, share a common hand of cards, and France has their own hand of cards. The solo system uses a six-sided fate die that is not included in Congress of Vienna, so I will use a regular six-sided die and this chart on page 37 of the playbook to determine the result. Place the three Allied leaders face up on the Allied display and place Kutuzov face up in the space for cards from the initial phase, and Napoleon face up on the French display. The first step in the initial phase is to draw the initial situation card and follow its instructions. The card places issues on the diplomatic display, units on the military display, restrictions on the powers, and character cards in the player's hands. For turn 1, place Blucher face up on the Allied display. Next, roll 2d6 on the initial environment table. There are no modifiers from the initial situation card. The first die roll is a 3 and the second is a 4. Austria selects a bonus card from the game deck. I choose Stadium because he can provide an additional resource and place this bonus card face up on the Allied display. 3 U.S. units are placed in the 1812 box and there are no additional effects. Britain does not want to demobilize fleets this turn. The diplomacy phase is next. The first step of the diplomacy phase is to shuffle the deck and deal cards. The card hand size track on the game board shows that France receives 15 cards in turn 1. Place the 15 cards face down on the draw deck C space of the French display. From the draw deck, place face-up cards in spaces A and B and face-down cards in spaces D and E. The Allies receive a number of cards equal to the sum of what they would receive individually minus 5 cards. The card hand size track shows Russia gets 10 cards, Britain 12 cards, and Austria 11 cards. So the Allies get 10 plus 12 plus 11 minus 5, which equals 28 cards. Place the 28 cards face down on the draw deck C space of the Allied display. From the draw deck, place face-up cards in spaces A and B, and face-down cards in spaces D and E. Keep the face-up cards from the initial phase separate. Next, the issues that will be negotiated and debated are selected. Each power plays one card to bid to place an issue on their track and negotiate last each diplomacy round, which is advantageous. When playing competitively against a bot, the human chooses first. In this non-competitive game, I choose to start with Russia and proceed clockwise around the diplomacy display. To select a card for the Russian wager, roll a die, a 4, which makes spaces A, B, and C eligible. I will mark the eligible spaces with Russian cubes. Flip the cards in the spaces A, B, and C face up if needed, so I flip the card in space C, the draw deck, face up, which is Castaños. Military cards the powers want to save for the war phase accumulate in the possibly usable military card pile, or PUMC. After flipping eligible cards face up, check if there are any PUMC for Russia face up in any of the 5 spaces A through E. There are none. Castaños is a usable military card for Britain, but not Russia, so it is not moved to the PUMC pile. Russia chooses one of the 3 cards for the wager. It chooses Marat, which removes a card France might want to trade for later and is the highest value available. Recall that for the wager, no modifiers are applied to the card value. Place Marat on the diplomacy display and fill empty space A with the top card from the draw deck, which is Castaños. Next, Britain chooses a wager card. Roll the fate die, a 3, which means D and E are eligible. Flip the cards in D and E face up. Britain may move one face-up, possibly usable military card to the PUMC pile. There are 2 cards for Britain to choose from. Note that a PUMC does not have to be eligible to be moved to the PUMC pile. Sherbrooke is playable in the War of 1812 and is a better military card than Castaños, so Britain moves Sherbrooke to the PUMC pile. This places Sherbrooke on the sidelines for most or all of the diplomacy phase to try to make him available during the war phase. Britain chooses from the eligible cards either D or E for the wager, but only E is available, so Britain must play Benningsen for the wager. Replenish D and E with face-down cards from draw deck C. Next, Austria chooses a wager card. Roll the fate die, a 1, which is C or the lowest lettered for Austria face-up card in A, B, D, or E. Flip C, and we reveal Goulet, who is eligible. Goulet is an Austrian military card, but Austria is not at war this turn and cannot go to war this turn because it goes to war at the end of the armistice, which cannot start until next turn, turn 2. So no military cards are possibly usable for Austria, and Goulet remains in space C. The other eligible card is the lowest lettered for Austria face-up card in A, B, D, or E. Near the bottom of each card is a letter rating each card for each power from the best A to the worst D. The letters in the white Austrian boxes are D for Castaños and B for Mervelt. So Castaños is the lowest lettered face-up card in A, B, D, and E and is eligible. Castaños and Goulet are eligible. Austria chooses Goulet, the higher value card, for the wager. There are no spaces to replenish. France is the last power to choose a wager card, so we move to the French display. Roll the fate die, a 2, for which A and B are both eligible. Both are face up, so there are no cards to flip and no PUMC for France. The Kaiser has a -1 penalty if France plays the card for negotiation or debate, for which it would only be a 4-value card. The modifier does not apply for the wager. The Kaiser is the best eligible card, so France plays the Kaiser for the wager. Replenish empty space A with a face-down card from draw deck C. Here is the diplomatic display with the 4 wager cards and the issues placed by the initial situation card. France has the highest value card and wins the wager. Move the large pawn next to France's chair to show it won the wager. France won with a 5-value card and the lowest value wager card is a 3, so France places an issue from the diplomacy display on the 2 space of its track, the difference between the highest and lowest wager cards. Note that for solo play only, if the human is playing the allies and an allied power wins the wager, it places an issue on its track in the space that is the difference between its wager card and France's card, not the lowest. The French bot would place the liberal issue. I will do the same, placing it at the French 2 space. Discard the 4 wager cards. Clockwise from the wager winner France, each power places 2 issues on the negotiating table. I will choose the issues selected by the bots. Russia places its recruitment and British financial aid. Britain places its 2 military operations. Austria places 2 minor allies, randomly picked from the potential Austrian allies to be Poland and Naples. France places 2 minor allies that provide it a military unit, randomly picked to be Saxony and Bavaria. This concludes issue selection. Cards awarded during the initial phase could not be used for the wager. These cards are now added to the card hands. Possibly usable military cards from the initial phase are placed in the PUMC pile. For the allies, that would be Kutuzov and Blucher. Cards that are not PUMC are shuffled into the draw deck in space C. In this case, Stadion is shuffled into the draw deck.
France did not receive any cards during the initial phase. If it had, it also would place PUMC in that deck and shuffle non-PUMC into the draw deck. The first round of the diplomacy phase is next. There are 6 rounds of negotiating issues, debating negotiated issues, and trading cards. The powers seated to the left or clockwise from the wager winner goes first each round. In this game, France won the wager as indicated by the gold pawn, so Russia goes first. Play proceeds clockwise for the 6 rounds.
Place markers on the diplomacy rounds track in their starting positions. Russia at the top, then Britain, Austria, and France last in each round. Use these to keep track of whose turn it is and who may pass because of prior debate. Russia goes first. Determine the eligible cards. Roll the fate die. A 6. Every card except C or A, B, D, and E are eligible. Flip the cards in D and E. The neutral battle card in D is PUMC for Russia, so move it to the PUMC pile. Russia decides to play Mervelt on its recruitment issue to move it 3 spaces. Replenish the empty spaces B and D with face-down cards from draw deck C. The Russian recruitment issue moves from the negotiating table to the Russian 3 space. In clockwise order, the other powers may choose to debate the issue. Britain, Austria, and France all decline to debate. Mervelt is discarded. Britain is next. Determine the eligible cards. Roll the fate die. A 1. So C and the lowest lettered face-up card are eligible. Flip C face up, and it is eligible. The lowest lettered card in spaces A, B, D, and E is Castaños in A. So A and C are eligible. Castaños is PUMC for Britain, so move it to the PUMC pile. The only card Britain can play is von Scharnhorst. Britain plays him on Naples to move it 3 spaces. Replenish the empty space A with a face-down card from the draw deck C. Naples moves from the negotiating table to the British 3 space. In clockwise order, the other powers may choose to debate the issue. Austria declines to debate. France will debate. France determines the eligible cards for its debate. Roll the fate die, a 5, for which C, D, and E are eligible. Flip these face-down cards face up. There are no military cards for France. France chooses to debate with Nesselrode to move Naples 4 spaces. France played a card from draw deck C, so it has no spaces to replenish. Naples moves from the British 3 space to the French 1 space. Von Scharnhorst and Nesselrode are discarded. Place the French debate marker to the right of its round marker as a reminder that it debated and may pass on its next turn. Austria is next. Determine the eligible cards. Roll the fate die. A 3. D and E are eligible. Flip D. Austria is at peace, so there is no PUMC. Neither eligible card is very good for Austria, and Austria wants to get liberalism/absolutism issue away from France. Recall that Austria and Russia are the absolutist powers, and Britain and France are the liberal powers. In the game, the liberalism/absolutism issue is one issue worth a lot of victory points. Thus, Austria will play its leader Metternich for the issue. To do so, Austria discards an eligible card. the weakest one being Huskinson, to play Metternich. After discarding Huskinson, fill space E with a face-down card from draw deck C. Metternich is a 5-value card with a +2 modifier for liberalism/absolutism, so he can move it 7 spaces. Liberalism, however, is on the French track. One of France's national advantages is that after all other modifiers, there is a -1 modifier to allies negotiating or debating issues on the French track. So Metternich moves liberalism 7 minus 1 equals 6 spaces from the French 2 to the Austrian 4 space. Austria wants absolutism, so I flipped the issue to its absolutism side. It is time for debate, and only leaders can debate leaders. France wants and needs to use Napoleon on its recruitment issue for his bonus of 2 additional military units, so it will not debate. Russia stands to gain victory points if Austria wins absolutism, so it will not debate. Britain wants liberalism, so it will debate with Castlereagh. Britain determines the eligible cards for its debate. Roll the fate die, a 6, so everything but C, or A, B, D, and E are eligible. Flip the face down cards A, B, and E. There are no military cards for Britain. There are 2 excellent French cards on the Allied display that France may trade for. Britain can discard only 1 card to debate with Castlereagh. Britain discards Jackson because he provides France a military bonus in the War of 1812. After discarding Jackson, fill space A with a face-down card from draw deck C. Castlereagh is a 5-value card with a +2 modifier for liberalism/absolutism and a +2 modifier for debating, but he has a maximum value of 7, so he can move the issue 7 spaces. Castlereagh moves absolutism 7 spaces from the Austrian 4 space to the British 3 space. Flip the issue marker to its liberalism side. Return Metternich and Castlereagh to the Allied display face down and unavailable for the remainder of the turn. France is very happy to see the Allies quarreling. Place the British debate marker to the right of its round marker as a reminder that it debated this round and may pass on its next turn. France is next. It has plenty of cards, so it will not take its debate pass. The French debate pass marker is moved from the diplomacy round track. If France debates later, the marker would be placed on the track.
The Allied display has an excellent French card, Fouché, that France will probably trade for instead of negotiating an issue. Normally, both powers have to agree to trade cards, but the French have a national advantage that they can demand a card trade that cannot be refused if the Allied power has a French card. Thus, Allied powers should try to quickly use French cards from the display in solo games and from their hands in multiplayer games.
France determines its eligible cards. Roll the fate die, a 4, so spaces A, B, and C are eligible. Flip the face down cards in spaces A and C. Poniatowski in space A is a military card for France. Note, however, that he provides a military unit if played on the Poland issue, which is on the negotiating table. If saved for the war phase, he provides a one-time +2 DRM. France decides that the unit is more valuable than the +2 DRM and does not move him to the PUMC pile, which is optional. Radetzky may provide a unit to Austria. Von Humboldt is the weakest eligible card for the Allies, so France demands a trade with Russia, which must accept. France sends von Humboldt to Russia, and the only French card Russia can send to France is Fouché. Fouché replaces von Humboldt on the French display. And von Humboldt replaces Fouché on the Allied display, concluding France's turn and the first diplomacy round. In clockwise order, continue negotiating and debating issues, and rarely trading cards or passing for 5 more rounds. In the later rounds, the draw deck may run out of cards. In this example, Britain plays Bexley from space D, and it will be Austria's turn. The last card from draw deck C is moved to space D. The draw deck is depleted. Shuffle the cards in the military pile and place them face down in space C. Do not start a new military pile for the rest of this diplomacy phase. No more PUMC can be removed from the display without being played and discarded. After the draw pile is depleted and the military pile transfers, flip all display cards face up, and all are now eligible for the remainder of the diplomacy phase. Do not roll the fate die for the remainder of the diplomacy phase. The odds that military cards have to be played for diplomacy increase with each subsequent card played. This recreates the conundrum in multiplayer games of how aggressive to be when debating and whether to play military cards for diplomacy.
The CDG solar system is used in the diplomacy phase of Congress of Vienna. The government phase and most of the war phase is identical to the multiplayer games, except only one human and perhaps 1 or 2 bots make the decisions instead of 2 to 4 humans. The government phase is demonstrated in the detailed example of play in Playbook Chapter 16. For the war phase, the one difference for solo play is the fog of war procedure, which is intended to provide uncertainty as found in multiplayer games, where you don't know what military cards your opponent may play in battle. I will demonstrate a turn 1 battle in Central Europe Front A with the fog of war procedure.
For clarity, I only show units and pieces for this battle on the military display. Russia places a military operations marker in Central Europe Front A, so there will be a battle there. Russia and France each place military support markers there. Calculate the initial die roll modifiers, or DRMs. Russia has 3 military units, so move the Allied pawn on the DRM battle track from 0 to 3. Russia also has the military support marker, which provided an additional +3 DRM, so move the pawn from 3 to 6. Russia is attacking, so the battle occurs in Poland, which is not homeland for either side, so there is no +3 DRM homeland bonus. There are no mountains, so there is no mountain -3 DRM penalty. The initial battle DRM for Russia is 6. France also has 3 units and a +3 DRM military support marker for an initial DRM of 6. Either side may now decide to withdraw. The battle looks even, so neither side withdraws. Next, each side plays military cards, which provide additional DRM. All military cards on the card display at the end of the diplomacy phase are available. Russia plays Kutuzov, Barclay, and a neutral battle card. France plays Oudinot and Duroc. Recall that Napoleon is not available for the war phase in turn 1. Kutuzov provides a +5 DRM, and after the battle, roll a die to see if he, dies. Move the allied pawn from 6 to 11. Barclay provides +1 allied or -2 French DRM. I choose -2 French DRM. Move the French pawn from 6 to 4. The neutral battle card Prussian General Staff provides Russia with a +3 DRM. Move the allied pawn from 11 to 14. For France, Oudinot provides +2 French or -2 allied DRM. I choose -2 allied. Move the allied pawn from 14 to 12. Duroc provides a +2 DRM, and after the battle, roll a die to see if he also dies. Move the French pawn from 4 to 6. The battle procedure so far is the same for a solo or multiplayer game. At this point in a multiplayer game, each side would roll 2 dice and add them to their DRM to get a final total. In the solo game, however, the military cards are not a surprise, so the following fog of war procedure provides uncertainty before the dice are rolled.
For competitive solo games against a bot, draw 1 card from the character and event deck for every military card played by an enemy bot. For non-competitive solo games like this, draw 1 card for every military card played. Draw cards one at a time. Resolve what to do with the drawn cards in this order. If the drawn card is a military card that this power can play in this battle, then do so. If the drawn card is a military card that the opponent can play in this battle, then do so. If the drawn card is a military card that this power can only play in an upcoming battle, add it to their hand. Otherwise, discard the drawn card.
Draw fog of war cards. First, for France. For Oudinot, draw von Hardenberg, which is not a military card, so it is discarded. For Duroc, you draw Suchet, who only provides DRM in fronts C and D where there are upcoming battles, so add him to the French hand for use there. Russia now draws for its played cards. For Kutuzov, Russia draws Wellington. Although this is an allied military card, it is not a military card this power, Russia, can use, so it is discarded. For Barclay, Russia draws a neutral battle card. Which it can use in this battle. Cossacks provide a +3 Russian or -4 French DRM. If Russia wants to maximize French losses, take the plus modifier. If Russia wants to maximize the odds of winning given the position of the pawns, I think it should take the negative modifier. I choose to take the -4 French DRM. Move the French pawn from 6 to 2. For the neutral battle card that was played, Russia draws Marmont. This is a French card France can use in this battle on front A. So Marmont goes over to the French side, and where he provides a +1 French or -2 Allied DRM. I choose -2 Allied. Move the Allied pawn from 11 to 9. The fog of war card play is over, and that the battle is resolved as in a multiplayer game. The final DRMs are France +2 and Russia +9. Russia placed the military operation and is attacking, so it rolls 2 dice first, a 6, and moves its pawn from 9 to 15. France rolls 2 dice, a 7, and moves its pawn from 2 to 9. Each side inflicts losses shown on the outside of the DRM battle track. Russia inflicts 2 losses on France, and those units are removed from the Grande Armée and returned to the French force pool. France inflicts 1 loss on Russia, and a unit is removed from the army of Silesia and returned to the Russian force pool. Roll a 1d6 for Kutuzov, a 2, and he dies and is removed from the game. Also roll a 1d6 for Dirac, a 4, and so he lives. Russia inflicted more losses, 2 to 1, so it barely wins the battle. This is not a major battle because both sides did not have 4 or more units, so no victory points are awarded for the win. Recall that the initial situation card stated that all French retreats in fronts A and B are 2-space retreats instead of the normal 1 space. The Grande Armée retreats from Poland to Saxony. The army of Silesia advances from Polesia to Silesia. Poland is worth 2 victory points to both France and Russia, shown as a black number. So subtract 2 VP from France and add 2 VP to Russia. Silesia, a green VP number, is worth 4 VP to Russia and none to France, so add 4 VP to Russia. The 2 spaces captured by Russia do not have any card symbols, so hand sizes do not change. That concludes the turn 1 battle in Central Europe Front A. Proceed to the next front with a battle.
The CDG Solo System displays and much more information about Congress of Vienna is available at the Congress of Vienna page at gmtgames.com. I hope that this video helps you get started playing Congress of Vienna and that you enjoy the game.